If you're someone who struggles to make a decision or doesn't know what path to pick with all the options that you have, there's something I listened to the other day that really sat with me that I wanted to make this video on. And hopefully by the end of this video, if it's something that also resonates with you, it should help you as much as it helped me. And so it was a podcast that I was listening to the other day, and it's been playing through my head because, a bit of backstory, I've always decided to move with speed with a lot of the things I do. And obviously with doing that, you have to actually understand how to make decisions fast while also making them with a good thought process behind them. And so through trying to develop the supplement business and having setbacks and having moments where I have to wait a little bit and be patient and things aren't necessarily going as fast as I thought they would, it's given me a lot of time to process and think about some of the core decisions I have made and some of the decisions moving forward. And a lot of that is less business orientated, but more self-growth orientated, which eventually helps the business as well. Anyway, right? So this podcast is typically talking about the choices you make as an entrepreneur moving forward and how crucial they are with whether your business flops or whether it scales and grows to great heights. And for example, you might have a lot of options on how you want a certain tagline to be, or what you want your hook to be, or what platform you want to market on, or potentially what kind of influencers you want to reach out to. These are some of the questions that I've posed in my mind recently, especially waiting for the supplement. And so you have so many different paths you can take. And so you get into this stage where it's a bit of analysis paralysis, where you're over analyzing each path so far to the point where you're not sure what to take. And so the one line that I've really stuck with from this podcast is asking yourself, is the cost of going with that thought process or the cost of that path outweigh the cost of inaction? And typically the price that you have to pay for not acting at all is always going to cut deeper than the price you pay for taking a certain move, acting on a choice, and seeing it doesn't work out. And so it really made me think, because not that I've been in business long enough to see how many mistakes I've made and see how much that hurt me, but I've had instances in the past trying different things that I've lost money. For instance, there was one venture that I tried to take, which luckily I didn't succeed with, and I lost pretty much $3,500. And so looking back at that now, although that choice, that action of moving quickly did burn me, it's allowed me to learn things. And linking it back to what I've actually learned now, if you decide to sit there and not make a choice, whether it's towards a certain option of what marketing platform or even just a choice in general that might cause you to progress and grow, the cost of inaction, the cost of staying where you are, and the choice to actually sit there and not grow or take a risk is always going to hurt you more in the long term. It might stop you from getting a short-term pain or a short-term burn, but you've got to realize that in order to change, you have to change. And so to be able to grow requires growing pains. There's no reward without risk. And that's something that I'm definitely starting to learn even in the early stages of this supplement business. And the reason that I push so heavily on that is because I would much rather, even though I'm still early on with my journey, I'd much rather people watch this video and understand that concept so that they don't even have to go through the process of learning that. They can just take what I'm saying now and then run with it and actually get to their goals faster. And so the concept of thinking and weighing out the pros and cons of what costs more and what's going to hurt you more. Nobody's ever gone from that entrepreneur, the person that has those visions and has those goals, and then gotten to that outcome without having change. The same person that has the dream and the vision before starting the business doesn't actually end up being that same person that has the business. You have to change in order to get there. And so change requires you to take risks because you're going into unfamiliar territory. You're going into different frames of mind, different friendship circles, and different places to network with people and learn skills that you wouldn't normally go before. And so there's this dissonance between who you are and where you want to be. And between that is change. Between that is risk. And it is a leap of faith. And it is jumping without knowing where you're going to land or how long the drop is. But that's the risk. And that's the cost that you got to make of taking that step. But one thing I definitely know now is that cost of staying on that diving platform and not actually jumping and staying who you want to be and always thinking about, I want to do this, I want to do that, it'd be cool if I achieved this, or it'd be great if I did that. That's going to always cost more, because it's going to be 1 year, 2 years, 5, 10 years down the track where you've had these great ideas that have never actually left your head, and you've always wanted to do something, but you've always thought that it's going to hurt you more if you decide to make the choice. When in reality, the thing that actually hurts the most is sitting there in that stage of what if, rather than just acting and actually seeing where it takes you. Now, don't get me wrong, with that said, there is caveats to it where you do have to analyze a situation and see at surface level if it's a smart decision or not. I've definitely learned that. For example, with losing $3,500, I should have analysed that a bit more rather than just quickly rushing into whatever could make me money. But with saying that, it is a balance. So it's not binary of whether you think about it or whether you don't think about it. It's how much you think about it. And so if you put it on a spectrum, you've got on one side where you don't think about it at all and just act, and that is a high probability of getting a bad return, and you usually get stuffed up or you lose money, like in my case. And then you have the other side of the spectrum where you analyze too much and therefore you act less. And so it's a matter of getting that sweet spot in the middle where you balance between thinking through your choices and thinking what's the most viable option, and if it's the direction you want to pivot to, or if it's going to give you the rewards that you desire or the skills that you want to learn, and is it actually going to hurt me in the long run? So you got to have that balance of thinking through your choices and then also making sure that you actually act on the options and the choices that you have in your mind before reaching that point of where it's going to cost you for being inactive, basically. And it's pretty much, if you're someone who plays video games, think of the guy that's just idle and AFK and he just gets kicked from the party or kicked from the server. Because of his inaction, he's lost the opportunity to actually do anything in the game. And so the game's just taken him out by default because he's been inactive. And so if you think about it in business or in professional sports, if you're going down that path, if you choose to not act, you will have that choice revoked from you, and you will only then realize that you should have taken it when you don't have that option anymore. And so to really go full circle on it, walk through the door while the door's open. Don't try and go through it when it's locked, because then you're going to try and bash through the door and it's going to hurt you a lot more to get through that choice and take that path, as opposed to when you have the risk and you're unsure but the door's wide open and there's less friction. So I'm probably just going to leave it there, because otherwise I'll just keep repeating the same thing but just wording it differently and it's going to drag on. So yeah, the point is, think about if the cost of inaction weighs more than the cost of taking the risk, and typically not doing anything at all is going to cost more than taking that leap of faith. So make sure that we're making those choices and keeping that consistency of building towards the vision, and take the risk, because the risk will always be worth it. And I hope in the videos to come of me showing how the business develops, I'll be able to practice what I preach in showing that the risks I'm taking now and the doors I'm shutting in order to persist with entrepreneurship, hopefully I'll be able to show that it pays off. So I'm going to leave it there. Ciao.